I'm Chef Resa Solomon-St. Louis. Welcome to my kitchen. I am the executive chef and founder of Bacchanal Taste the Caribbean Lifestyle right here in Ottawa. I'm proud to be an award-winning chef and that our company Bacchanal is listed as one of the top food businesses run by women in Canada. We have a commercial kitchen in the East End in Manor Park, and I'm excited to have you here in my home because really this is where my food development, where my food flavor started, right here cooking for my friends and my family. And you'll see a lot of my faves on our menu for our catering, takeout, and at farmers markets. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's see what we have today in terms of local goodies and things from our farmers market. Ottawa Street Markets has brought us some delicious crystal lettuce. We have some nice russet potatoes and some farm fresh eggs, beautiful English cucumbers, some nice beefsteak tomatoes. Those are going to be nice, fresh with what we've got prepared today. We've also got some fantastic ground beef from Ottawa's Piggy Market. They have fantastic fresh cuts of meat from their butchery, which everything is butchered right here in Ottawa. And we have some fantastic olive oil. Olive oil is something that I love to cook with. I love the flavors of olive oil, but also in terms of choosing one of the healthier fats, this is definitely one of the ways to go. Today we've got a nice Greek olive oil, so not too heavy, but definitely full of flavor. And from Bacchanal, because I'll tell you what we're doing in a moment, and you'll know in a second why we need this. We have our jerk sauce, and we have our signature spice blend. And so we use our signature spice blend in almost all of our savory dishes. And you'll see how we're going to be using our jerk sauce in a second, because today our menu is going to be jerk burgers. So we're going to be doing some jerk beef burgers, as well as some seasoned wedge fries. And we're going to be doing a basil lemon mayo and a delicious ginger beer shandy that's going to be fantastic to top off this hot backyard summer meal.
In the Kitchen with Resa is sponsored by Bacchanal. Taste the Caribbean Lifestyle, award-winning food, catering, take-home, foodie gifts, and more. Located at 1805 Gaspé Avenue, and visit them online at bacchanal.com. Fresh produce and eggs featured on In the Kitchen with Resa are sponsored by Ottawa Street Markets. Visit them at ottawastreetmarkets.ca for info on home delivery, citywide pickup points, and neighborhood marketplaces. Meat and poultry featured on In the Kitchen with Resa is sponsored by the Piggy Market, an artisanal bakery, deli, craft butcher shop in Ottawa's Westboro neighborhood, and several local farmers markets. Visit them at thepiggymarket.com to learn more.
So we're going to do some jerk burgers today. So let's talk about jerk. What is jerk exactly? Jerk is synonymous with Jamaican cuisine. It's spicy, it's earthy, it's so delicious, and it's fantastic for grilling, which is why we're going to use it on our jerk burgers today. So let's talk actually about what jerk is and how it came about. So a long time ago, when millions of people from the African continent were enslaved during the transatlantic slave trade, they were brought to different parts of the Americas, including to a large extent, for the most part, to the Caribbean, including Jamaica. There were a number of slaves that managed to escape from the slave owners, and they escaped up to the hills of Jamaica. Now, these hills were dense jungle hills, and it was very inhospitable for people to come and track them down. So they managed to escape and create their own community there. They're called the Maroons, and today you can find people that were descendants of the Maroons in Jamaica, and those communities still exist today. So the Maroons also were able to collaborate and band together with the indigenous people, the indigenous tribes of Jamaica, of the island, very similar and in some cases the same as a number of the tribes that we have right here in Canada. And they combined their methods of cooking and their ability to be stealth and conceal themselves so that they were able to survive. So for example, meat was cooked underground and smoked using certain spices that would allow the meat to be preserved for a long time. And that's essentially how jerk came about. So what are the essential components of jerk? First of all, allspice. So allspice is a pimento berry. Or allspice, we might know it as being ground. We use it most often that way, probably over here. But you can also use the berries and kind of pound them. They're dry, using a mortar and pestle. Some type of onion. Could be green onion, red onion, white onion, whatever onion you prefer. There's usually onion in there. Garlic. Very, very, very common in Caribbean cooking, onions and garlic. Another element you can include is fresh thyme or dried thyme and some type of salt. So I like to use tamari sauce. You can use soy sauce, tamari sauce, or salt if you prefer. And just to add a bit of extra flavor, I use our spice blend as well. And then, of course, the quintessential ingredient, Scotch bonnet peppers, some of the highest Scoville reading or the hottest peppers that you can ever have. I mean, you may have seen the Scotch bonnet test on TikTok. Like, I recommend don't try this at home. These, you have to treat them with care. Right now they're dry, so I'm handling them with my bare hands. But once I start cooking, 100%, you want to use gloves because you could actually get burned, and you certainly do not want to pop these into your mouth raw. A little bit is okay, but certainly not any significant quantity. So everything is kind of mixed together with a bit of water, and we get jerk sauce. So you can see here, it's all the colors, and if you could smell it, you'd smell all the flavors too. So let's see how we're going to put this together and make our jerk burgers. So what I'm going to be doing right now is we have some fantastic fresh ground beef, and it's a fairly simple process from here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the ground beef with some seasoning. So I'm going to start off with my spice blend. Quite generous because we want our burger to be flavorful, right? So we're going to do that. And I'm also going to mix up a couple of eggs to just bind the bind my burgers, because I'm going to add a little bit of oat in it, a little bit of a nutty flavor with the oats, but it's also kind of like a gluten-free filler. It is a gluten-free filler. Sometimes I use breadcrumbs, but most of the time I'll use oats. So I'm just mixing up the eggs, and then I'm going to add in all of my liquids at once. I'm going to add in my teriyaki, my tamari sauce, which is also, this one is actually gluten-free, but you can use whatever you want. Soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, you can use some salt, and I'm not going to add salt to this because I have quite a bit of salt already. I have quite a bit of salt already from the soy sauce that I've put in there, as well, of course, from my jerk. I'm gonna pour the whole thing in here because we've got quite a bit of ground beef. Okay, so I'm just going to pour about half of this in, and we'll adjust as we go so that we get the right texture that we want. Just pop this over here. So now you've got to be comfortable with touching the raw meat for this type of dish. So what I would say though too, if you're not that keen on working in ground beef like this, you can always get burgers that are pre-cut, and you can essentially kind of dunk dunk the burgers in your jerk sauce. And of course, if you don't want to make jerk sauce from scratch, you can also just buy some, right? So I'm working it in here. It's pretty squishy. And like the thing is that I do want it to stick together a little more. And so the reason why I'm adding the oats, it's to bind it because the jerk sauce is a liquid. So I need the eggs and the oats to bind, because otherwise it's going to be, kind of like cooking up spaghetti sauce. And we're not looking for that at this time. So it's pretty much incorporated here. And so the meat is a lot more pliable and soft. I'm just going to change my gloves for a second here. And I'm going to add in, to start, about 1.5 cups of oats. Okay. And so of course, hot backyard summer, ideally you're going to bring this out to your grill, or you can even, with these burgers, you can also easily freeze them. We actually sell frozen jerk burgers at Bacchanal and through some of our outlets like Ottawa street markets, and they're frozen, they're already formed, and you can just take them out of the fridge, or if you prefer, pop them in the microwave when you're ready to cook them, and they're easy peasy for the grill. So you can take them with you when you're traveling, or they're just quick and easy to have in the freezer when you're going to have, some guests over or something like that. So easy to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this little round thing, which you don't have to. I'm just going to take like a handful of meat, form it into a ball, and just kind of press it in here. It's going to help me to just keep it nice and round. There we go. Now I'm going to squish it out, because as you've probably noticed, usually when we make burgers, they tend to shrink a bit, right? So I always kind of make them extra large to kind of, when they're raw, to kind of just account for that. So now I'm just going to flatten it a little bit. It's just helping me to get that nice round burger. Okay, so we've got a couple burgers there. What we're going to do now is bring them over to the stove, and we're going to cook them there. So as I said, you can cook them easily on the grill. You can cook them in the oven. I'm going to do mine stovetop. It's fast. And then what I'm going to do is finish them off in the oven. And we always want to cook our beef to a minimum temperature of 165 degrees. No raw burgers, that's not good, in order to make sure that we've killed all of the bacteria. So we've got a couple burgers, we're ready to go. Easy peasy, see how quickly that was? And we're gonna head over to the stove. All right, what we're going to do is just turn our pan on. You can use a skillet, whatever you prefer, a frying pan. And ground beef does have quite a bit of fat, so there's no need to put oil in the pan, especially if you have a non-stick pan. So we're going to put in a couple of burgers. I think we can fit 3 in here at a time. There we go. And one of the things that we like to do as well is, when I'm going to put these in the oven, I'm going to use some of our sweet jerk barbecue sauce, just to kind of bake on the flavor, and that way, it's like you've had that barbecue outside. Of course, you can do it that way as well, and but this is a great way to kind of infuse the flavors, layer on some more jerk, but also get that sweetness of the barbecue. So because what I'm really only looking to do is brown it in the pot, it's probably going to take about 3 or 4 minutes on each side. Then we'll be ready to pop them into the oven and put the barbecue sauce on and finish it up. So our burgers have been seared in the pan. We've got a little bit of a crust on either end. And what we're going to do now is just finish them off in the oven. And this way we can bake on some lovely sweet and spicy sweet jerk barbecue sauce, or your favorite barbecue sauce. I like sweet jerk. And just gonna brush some of that on. And I'm going to put this into my oven at, you know, pretty decent heat, around 400 degrees. And that's just gonna take maybe about 10 minutes or so to bake on, and then we're ready to eat our burgers. So let's pop these into the oven. So now we're ready to make our seasoned wedge fries. So what we're going to do is start off with some russet potatoes that we've already kind of par cooked. Now, if you can do it this way or not, but this is the way I prefer to do it because I just like to speed up the cooking process a little bit. So I always either bake or boil or microwave my potatoes for a little bit so that they're still pretty firm. I'm going to be finishing them off, and today I'll use the air fryer. Everybody loves the air fryer. And I like to keep the skin on. I mean, that's where you're going to get the great vitamins, is if you keep the skin on, and of course it adds some delicious flavor. But what you want to do is make sure that you really scrub your potatoes well, and you know, if you need to cut off the eyes or whatever, then that's fine too. But just because otherwise your potatoes are going to be gritty. Nobody wants gritty potatoes. So we've got our potatoes here in the bowl, and this is just really so simple. Again, we have our spice blend, which is a great base for that, and we're using our signature spice blend from Bacchanal, which is so versatile. But what you can use is anything like a steak spice or any type of, combo seasoning spice that you like, a Cajun seasoning or something like that. And now I'm going to just drizzle some olive oil. Yes, even though it's going in the air fryer, I still like to coat it with a little bit of oil. Nothing at all close to a pan fry. And if you don't have an air fryer, then just put it in your regular oven on bake or convection roast at about 400 degrees. And then you'll know when it's ready, when everything is all nice and crispy. So what I'm going to do is I've got my air fryer tray right here. I'm going to put them on, and it's probably going to take less than 10 minutes in the air fryer, but it just depends. And if you want, you can kind of flip them over at 5 minutes to make sure that they bake evenly. So there we go. Wedge fries are going to be ready in just a couple of minutes. So I think our fries are just about ready. Let's check on them in the air fryer. So quick and handy to make a nice, delicious, crispy seasoned fry without too much oil. Yeah, it looks like they're all ready. We can see that there's some color on that. All the spices are baked in, dried out a little bit in the air fryer. So we're good to go. And why don't we make a delicious lemon basil mayo to go with that? So for the lemon basil mayo, it's pretty simple. What we're going to do is start off with your favorite mayo. If you want, you can make your own aioli, but I mean, in terms of keeping it simple, and we don't need to worry about having any issues with uncooked eggs. We'll just go ahead and use a commercially already prepared mayo. And I've just got some fresh basil that I'm just going to roll up a little bit so I can cut it quickly. And we're just going to chop this really finely, so it's okay to have a little bit of texture in there. But I don't think we want to be eating great big basil leaves. Raw basil leaves might be a little bitter, so we're going to get this minced as much as possible, and then we're going to combine it with a little bit of fresh lemon. A little bit of fresh lemon and A dash of salt and pepper. You can see it already smells fantastic with the lemon. And this is going to be a nice acidic contrast to the sweet and the spicy that we've got going in our jerk burgers with a sweet jerk barbecue sauce. So there you go. Easy, just like that. And it's a nice way to just brighten up your mayo and get a bit of extra flavor in there. So we'll put all this together and we can see what our final plate looks like and our drink of the day. So who's ready for summer? That hot backyard summer, it's here, we're ready for it. So we've got our jerk burgers. So all the toppings, some fresh tomato, fresh lettuce, fresh onion, a little bit of ketchup. We whipped up a quick lemon basil mayo, which is just fresh lemon, mayo, fresh chopped basil, a bit of salt and pepper, adjust to taste. Fantastic, nice contrast to a bit of the sweetness and the spice that we have going on here. It's going to be great with the seasoned wedge fries. Throw on a little bit of, we've already got the Jamaican accent with the jerk burger, throwing on a little Trini accent. So instead of using relish, we're going to use a cucumber chow, which is kind of like a pickle. So it's fresh cucumber, marinated in fresh herbs, bit of hot pepper like Scotch bonnet or scorpion pepper, and some vinegar, and it gives you that great acidity that's delicious on a burger. So what goes best with a burger? A beer or a ginger beer, or maybe a combination of both. So we're going to make today a ginger beer shandy. So we've got a beer here and a ginger beer, a bit of ice and some fresh lime. Add these in together. A little bit of extra Caribbean flavor to our beer. And I think all I want to say right now is cheers. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen with Resa.